Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to the sheep pen, bah, where no goats are allowed, or at least they're strongly discouraged. So today we're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of casting out demons. I've talked in previous episodes about how there are two major ways of casting out demons. There is the Bob Larson kind of exorcist movie, flamboyant way of doing it, putting on a show. When those people do this, when they do deliverance or exorcisms, they kind of the whole method is designed to make the demons manifest so that you can see them, to show the demons to the people. And I don't know, these demons to me are interdimensional scum and they don't deserve to be showed off. They don't deserve to be able to manifest their power. I attack demons in a much more decisive, controlling, and powerful way, in my opinion. And I've learned this from the people who do this on a mass scale. They don't go and cast the devil out of 3 or 4 people in front of an audience once a week. These are people that have deliverance machines, right? That they have whole departments of their church that just turn out these deliverance prayer sessions all throughout the week. 3 or 4 sessions every day. There's 3 or 4 different people every day throughout the week, 15 to 20 people throughout the week who are getting this treatment done. And that's just in a church that runs 300 people. So churches that do deliverance and are serious about it, they tend to be very productive, and they make a lot of ground. Now, the biggest problem I have with deliverance ministry, we know the issues I have with the letting the devil show off and doing the power encounters. Plus, I think the power encounters are not healthy for the person involved, and in some cases, those power encounters have led to the death of the subject who's being the subject of the exorcism. So it can be dangerous physically to let devils run rampant like that. So I prefer the closed door method of traditional deliverance ministry. Um, but the problem I have with the traditional deliverance ministry, as practiced in churches, is they don't offer it to people unless the people come under their complete control. Now, there's a reason behind this. There's a saying, deliverance without discipleship is disaster. Because it has to do with the old saying, or not saying, with the teaching, the biblical teaching, that when you cast a demon out of someone, if they don't do the necessary things to police their spirit and keep this demon out, if they're not aware of how the demon came into them to begin with, if they're not aware of the open door or window that the demon is using to access them, then they do not have the ability to keep the demon out, and the demon will return with 7 more ugly ones than itself, 7 more vile demons than itself. And so the act of casting out demons and not discipling people afterwards, not teaching them how to stay clean, not giving them the support that is necessary to disciple them into stronger Christians who can defend themselves, then you're really just making the person worse. That's the problem I have with power encounters too. You go do a power encounter on a total stranger, then you get in your car and you go to the next town, and guess what? The minute you leave, and that power lifts, if you don't teach that person how to police their own spirit, if you don't teach that person how to overcome the demon in their daily lives, then it's just going to come back 7 times more powerful. And so, because churches understand this method, they don't do deliverance on people until they're in the church and they have control over them. And I think that's bass backwards, if you want to know the truth. I think that's really backwards of how it ought to be. I think the deliverance ought to happen. And then, unfortunately, the only way to make this work, in my opinion, is for the deliverance minister to pursue the person that they have just done the deliverance on. So once you clean up a soul, once you clean somebody up, you can't let them get away from you. You can't take no for an answer. You just got to dog them. You got to just call them all the time. Be like, hey, we need to talk. How's your prayer life? How's it going? How's your struggle? You got to stay on them. You have to be like this aggressive disciple. Okay. And so churches don't want to do that. They don't want to put the effort into that. So they try to engineer a system where you can come in and join the church. You can start visiting the church. and you can come to church, and then you go through a members class and you get educated, and then you go through a deliverance class, and then at the end of your deliverance class you finally get an offer to vanquish this demonic activity from your spirit. The problem is, the people that need deliverance the most, they ain't getting nowhere near a church. And if they go to a church, they are not going to sit there long enough for you to put them in a discipleship program, get them paying their tithes. Are you kidding? Get them. Most churches won't offer deliverance until these people are members, tithe-paying members. They've got you involved. You're going to dedicate yourself to be a volunteer in the church. You're paying tithes, and then and only then they will offer you these services. And honestly, they're only helping the people that are this much demonized. Really, they're only helping the people that have this much problems. Because if you're only demonized so much that you can go and you can sit through a church service, you can listen to the gospel being preached, and you can do that over an extended period of 2 or 3 months, coming every Sunday, and then go through a class that takes 6 weeks to graduate, and you've made it this far in, you ain't that demonized. Because if you were demonized, that devil wouldn't let you do any of that. He would prevent you. He would, there would always something would come up. He would make you lose your job, make you quit your job and move to another town if he had to get you away from the deliverance minister. One of the biggest problems that I have with non-power encounters. See, with the power encounter, the devil doesn't have a chance to run. You got him. You're in that situation right there. You're going to throw him out, and you're going to use that power over him. But it's ugly. Power encounters are ugly. They're spiritually bloody, as it were, and they're just messy, right? And they're public many times. And when they're done, if you're not willing to, like I said, aggressively pursue this person and go, okay, now you're my disciple, so you're not going anywhere. We got these devils out of you. We got to keep them out of you. So this is my arm here. You're going to hook onto my arm, and we're going to hang together for the next couple of months, minimum. And people aren't willing to make that kind of investment in someone else. And the churches have tried their deliverance ministry, but because they want the hook in the person, because they don't want to give them deliverance and then the person split. For one thing, what does the church get out of it? They don't get a helper, they don't get a tither, they don't get a member, right? They put all this effort into helping the person, and then the person has no connection, so they can just split, right? And then they can't do the discipleship to protect the person, and then ultimately the person gets a re-demonized 7 times worse. So all of these add up to part of the reason why we're losing the fight against the demonic. It's part of the reason why most people are demonized to some degree or another. Let me say that again. Most every human being, unless they've been through this process, is demonized to one degree or another. They carry family demons and curses. They carry curses from their past behavior and sin. Jesus will forgive you for your sin, but the devil doesn't. And he is waiting there for you, laying traps and snares to make you stumble around every corner, unless you throw them out, unless you really stand up to the devil, unless you have deliverance, unless you drive them away and then figure out how they got in so they can never get back in again. Until you drive them so far away that you can't even hear them screaming at you anymore. Their voices are even silent. And you can live a life virtually free of temptation when you get to that point. And so what's another method? What's another way? So I sat about trying to reinvent the wheel, as it were, to find a better mousetrap. I set about to study this problem, knowing that power encounters, unless you do like Jesus did and go, okay, you're my new best friend until I find you somebody else to be your new best friend, right? When Jesus delivered somebody, he's like, pick up your bed and follow me, pick up your cross and follow me, like, we're in this together kind of thing, unless he could turn them to a disciple or somebody else that could help them stay on the straight and narrow. This is stuff that is implied in the gospel, and I could walk you through it. Those are things, statements that are also firmed up in the behavior of the apostles and the early church Christians, as portrayed in the book of Acts and other non-biblical books. Well, they show us that the discipleship is a necessary part of it. And so I got to thinking that relationship, um, relationship is so important. That the best deliverance ministers are people who can establish a personal friendship with the people that they bring through this process and stay active in their lives. I know some deliverance ministers who, even if a person leaves the church, or even if a person turns their back on God to some degree and goes back to their old life, this person that I'm talking about, this deliverance minister that I know, he will still pursue them. He will still make the phone calls. He will still send emails. He will still send birthday cards. He finds ways to let them know this process worked for you. Remember, if you have problems, it's here for you again. And remember the stuff we talked about, how to stay right, how to stay out of the control of the demonic. And so then I started thinking about the relationships we already have in our lives. In deliverance ministry, I was taught that you can't do deliverance ministry on people that you love or are emotionally involved with. You can't do this with your girlfriend, wife, children, parents, that you have to get strangers to do this, that you can't do this for your own family. And I don't know that they adequately really convinced me of that arbitrary line. And then I ran into another problem as a guy who kicks the devil's teeth in on a regular basis, as a guy who has plucked children from the mouths of the devil and denied him the feast that he had set out to obtain. And I pissed the devil off so many times and so deeply that he will never, ever, ever forget. I have tried to quit deliverance ministry. I have tried to stop being a devil fighter. I've tried to stop preaching. I've tried to just be a guy who lives in a van down by the river. But trust me, the devil never forgets and he never forgives. And he will never let you off the hook. If you've done one good thing for God and you've done one good thing for God at the expense of the devil, if you've stolen something from the enemy ever, he will never forget. And you have no choice but to continue with your defenses. Now, the thing is, I can defend myself great. God's given me the angels to back me up. He's given me the knowledge and the spiritual authority and power to tread on snakes and scorpions. And I know that no weapon formed against me will prosper. And I know that the devil has to bend to the will of the Holy Spirit. That the devil does not have control over me, and that greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I know all of that, and I live it. But I can't live it for you. And I can't live it for my friends and family. And I certainly can't live it for the woman in my life. So what I began to discover, this is one reason I was living in a van down by the river. This is one reason why I used to live in a shotgun shack in the Texas outback. Another reason why I live alone in a cabin in the woods in rural Oklahoma down 4 miles of dirt road is because I can't have anybody in my life that the devil doesn't target. See, the devil can't get me because I'm surrounded in God's ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. And I have angels dispatched to defend me and drive the enemy from my midst. And the Lord makes a table for me in the presence of mine enemies. And even though the battle rages, I live in a circle and a bubble of God's peace. But let me tell you, I can't assure that for anyone else who's in my life. And if the devil can't get me, he tries to get the people that love me. With a great deal of success, I'm afraid. That I reached a point where this wasn't about fighting the devil for the greater good of the kingdom. This wasn't about fighting the devil to help other people anymore. This started to become about how do I best fight the devil so I can have a friend, so I can have a wife or a lover, so I can have people around me that care about me. Because when I let people get close to me, the devil comes after them. He always, always does. I can't really have relationships because of what I've done to the devil. Unless I figure out a way to get the person in my life, the friends closest to me, the people that the only reason the devil doesn't hurt the people around me is I never let myself get deep enough into a friendship that that he would be motivated to go after that person, because I don't have enough vested in them to make it worth the devil's time. I mean, you can't, if he hurts total strangers, well, he gets that kick, but it doesn't really dismantle my life or slow my ministry down or stop me from doing what I'm doing. But if he comes after somebody I love, if he comes after somebody I'm connected to or entangled with in any way, regardless of the type of friendship, relationship, love, interest, whatever, then he can get me. Then he can throw me out of my saddle. Then he can. This is one of the only parts of the celibacy concept for the priesthood that actually made sense. The rest of that edict that was handed down that caused the priest to have to be celibate and not married. In the case of married priests at the time, they were supposed to abandon their wives and children to become celibate. Um, the only part of that that isn't just obvious ploy to try to keep the money in the church, to try to keep ministers from leaving their wealth that they acquire over their lifetime to their children. Instead, they now leave it to the church. That was obviously just clearly about money. But there's one part of that that does make sense. When you live like a monk alone in the woods, you can fight the devil, and he doesn't have anyone else to go after to try and hurt you. That honestly, when you really become a demon fighter, it's very lonely. It's pretty freaking lonely. I'm not going to break down. It's lonely. Trust me, I know. But it's better than pulling somebody in and watching the devil eat them alive. And I can only protect them to some degree. And I can teach them to protect themselves. And so what I ended up doing is, when I got a friend, or when I got somebody I was, attached to emotionally and wanted to get into a relationship with, then I'd start teaching them about this stuff right off the bat. Try to indoctrinate them into my belief system so that I could grant them some peace and some deliverance and some protection before they got into a too deep of a love situation or into a commitment with me, and try to get a level of protection around them and teach them self-protection against the demonic before I put a target on their back by loving them. I'm getting real personal now. I'm telling you how this deliverance ministry became a personal effort for me so that I can have a friend and some family members that aren't being chewed up by the devil and spit out in pieces. Because the devil can't get me, but if you come up close to me, he'll come after you. He will. And if your defenses aren't up, he'll get you. I've seen it. The devil's stolen a lot from me, but he can't get me. And I wish I could teach people the kind of level of protection that I have so the devil can't get you either. I really wish. This is part of what this channel is about, to teach you to be more like me, to be able to overcome the devil. And that way the devil can't get any of us, if we all know. So I set out a long time ago to teach the people that I love and know that are close to me this method. And now I'm sharing it with you. And I've done the deliverance method a little differently. A power encounter seeks to kind of set off a nuke in the spirit of the person you're dealing with and drive out all the demons in one kind of blanket power encounter and make it happen all at once. And then that leaves this quivering empty shell of vulnerability left behind, that if you don't have a discipleship program to put that person in where people can love them and give them the self-defense skills and teach them how to stay free and teach them how to say no to the demonic and close all those doors. If you don't have that process, then you've got this empty shell that just goes out into the world and gets re-victimized by the demonic. And then you've got the deliverance ministry process, which most of the time happens in one day. It's a one-day thing. You come in, they knock it out in 4 to 8 hours. It's intense. Their attempt is to get all the demons at once. They take longer. They try to close the doors. There's some counseling that goes on with it. There's a lot of lead up to it in education. So when you come in, you know what you're doing. And then there's a lot of aftercare and discipleship afterwards. And honestly, it's a great program that works. I just wish it was free. I just wish it wasn't so restricted to just the cool kids. Only the cool kids, the people that fit into your organization, get that treatment. And I wish there was a more blanket way of doing it. So what I'm trying to do really is share with you what I've learned about doing deliverance in your family unit, in your friend group, in your tightest circle. I had to learn how to do this to try and save people from the demonic who will come after them if they're nice to me. I mean, if you're nice to me in the and even is true of viewers. Like the devil's going to target you because he doesn't want this information out, right? Just the very act of sitting and listening to this 20 minutes I've already spoken has put a target on your back. So I'm about teaching people to do their own fighting. Do the teaching portion of how to stay free kind of at the forefront. Make that process the entry process so that you come into the situation fully armed. And then you can spread this to your friend and family group. And so I want to share with you my successes and my failures real quickly at the end of this video. I have done this, I've been through this process, and I changed it up a bit. Instead of trying to make it happen in one hour session like a power encounter, or even like a 1 day event, that I decided to deal with these demons as they pop up. So I just go about my friendship, or I go about the dating process, and I immediately start trying to open their mind up, or hopefully their mind's already open, and I'm making friends with and or dating somebody who's already spiritual to begin with. And I start opening them up to, hey, this is how the spirit world works. Maybe this is why you've had some issues, or maybe this is why your parents or family's life was so screwed up. Or if we have a mutual friend, I can point this out and go, hey, this person is obviously under the attack of some demonic force. And open their mind, and over time, as I become friends with somebody or the relationship deepens, then I start talking about using this to help them with their problems and getting them on board and teaching them. And then eventually at some point, I'll get them to agree to giving me spiritual authority. If you're going to do this for somebody else, you have to have delegated spiritual authority. And it's as simple as looking the person in the eye and saying, do you give me spiritual authority? Can I act as your spiritual leader and liaison in this, in the spirit realm? Will you trust me with that? When they say yes, I delegate that authority to you. Now I can act just like them. I can act as though I am them, and I can take the power and authority that I have and the power and the energy that I bring to it now, but I'm acting on behalf of them as a proxy for them. I become a proxy in the spirit realm for that other person, and now I can kick the devil's teeth in on their behalf, right? With them hooked at the elbow. The problem I ran into is that typically when you do it this way, you ignore the main demon, the one you know is there, and you target all the little ones that are in support. So no, demons run in packs. They aren't lone wolves. You don't have a demon. You have demons. You don't have a demonic assignment against you. You have demonic assignments against you, plural. And so they work in groups. Look at them like a crew, like a 5-man A team in the military, or like a hit squad, right? Ocean's 11. Everybody's got their job, right? And so what happens is when these demons pop up, it's the little ones that pop up. The big one pulling the strings, the big daddy one, or maybe he's the spirit of addiction, or maybe he's the spirit of child abuse, or maybe he's the spirit of trauma, right? The one that really is anchored in, that's got his legs wrapped up around, his tentacles wrapped all around the spirit of this person, has all these peripheral lesser demons that do his bidding, that work in conjunction with him, and they're all related by task, okay? So let's say a person might have a demon of shame. That's a little demon. And he's being directed by this demon of abuse. So this person either craves abuse or hands out abuse, and tied to it is the demon of shame, this little demon. And look at the main demon like it's a crime boss, and all of these lesser demons are its thugs, its minions, its employees, right? And just like John Wick gets to the final guy, he takes out his whole organization first. And I hate to say that this was kind of in my head when I put this together, was this kind of classic samurai tale of the lone gunman, hero, the Jack Reacher, the John Wick or whatever, who goes and takes down a criminal organization by taking out all of the underlings and working his way up until he's just standing in the head man's office, looking at him over his desk, defenseless. I took out all of your protection, and now you're at my disposal. And this is what I do. This is the method I've been using with demons for some time. And I do this in my friend group if they'll let me. If they'll answer that question, do you give me spiritual authority? Do you give me a spiritual proxy to act on your behalf? Yes, I do. If I can get that, then I'll start working to deliver them as the demons pop up. And people know when they're being demonized. They know when they're doing something they can't stop. They know when they're acting in a way that is uncool. They know when they're hurting someone and they can't stop, but it feels so good and they can't quit, right? They can't make themselves stop. They know they should. They feel guilty or even shameful that they're doing it, but they can't quit. Whatever the it thing is they're doing, whatever demonic thing they're being compelled to do. If you can catch them in that moment, get them to realize what they're doing, because they kind of know it, get them to fess up to it, and then ask them that question: am I your spiritual authority? And if they say yes, bam, I'm about to get you. I'm about to get you, demon of whatever is the problem. And I take them out one at a time as they pop up until I get to the head demon. Now here's the problem I keep running into. That head demon, he may not have all the power that he had when he was working this whole organization, this demonic organization against this person. But they still have the power to deceive. And especially the primary strongman, main demon, the principal demon in a person's crew of demons, that the main bad guy, the thing that he has the real power over is that oftentimes this demon goes back to childhood. They've glommed onto the person early in life due to some kind of trauma, some kind of childhood event, sometimes something that happens in their teen or early 20s, and it causes that demon to really, the younger they can get in, the deeper they can get ingrained in the spirit, and they can create in that person emotions, deep emotions, emotions they can't understand. So the problem I keep running into is I successfully whip these demons till I'm standing alone with the principal demon in the room, right? After maybe days, weeks, or months of doing this. And then at some point, the person I'm dealing with, that demon just puts a fight or flight in the human. He makes the human so afraid, so freaked out, so angry that they'll just pop a gasket, lose their mind, and run as far away from me as they can get. They will run as far away from the exorcist as they can get. Or, if I don't lose them that way, I'll cast that final demon out, and they'll be clean, and everything will look great. But that demon was so ingrained in them, they're so used to that demon that they can't stop inviting it back in, especially if it's tied to some kind of self-defense or emotional defense mechanism. If it's tied to that, all that has to happen is that person gets their feelings hurt again. And they reach out for that tool, that demonic tool of hatred that they've been relying on since childhood, to hit this other person and defend themselves against this perceived insult. And now they've opened the door and the devil comes right back in. And you know what? He brings 7 more of his buddies with him. So now the fight's even more difficult. And that also ends with the person getting as far away from me as possible. That's the only problem I have not overcome in this experiment in doing deliverance on people that are in your family and friend group, is that how you get past the demon's emotional urge, compulsion to get as far away from the exorcist as possible. This is one I'm still working on. But I will say this, that even if I cast out 17 demons, and the 18th one is I can't get rid of him, or he comes back, there's still 17 demons lighter. They still had this experience where they felt free, where for a while things were right for them. And so they never forget it, and they never stop the fight. And if you laid the foundation along the way to give the person tools, what I have seen is they eventually beat that demon on their own. Even Jesus said some demons only come out with much fasting and prayer. And I was going to tell you a story of a dynamic exorcism that I did, casting out the final demon. And I was driving down the road in the middle of two tornadoes trying to cross the road in front and behind me, and I threaded the needle while driving with this hand through tornadoes, and in the other hand I got the person's their hand in my hand, and I'm casting out their final demon while I was going to tell you, now I guess I am telling you, while I'm driving down the road in the middle of the night, this storm is raging, right? And this final demon has picked this moment to throw down with me, right? This exact moment to throw down while I'm trying to get through these two tornadoes and make it home. And now this person's literally trying to climb out of the window and kill themselves. And I've got him by the hand and I'm pulling him back in the car, right? Because this demon has picked this moment to throw down. They got me distracted, and the demons got perfect timing. So now this is the worst time for me. And this person is just like they're coming out of their skin. They're manifesting like you don't want them to manifest. In a future video, I'll talk about how you avoid that. But this came out of nowhere, and I had to cast this devil out, and I also couldn't pull over because we were being descended on by twin tornadoes. And I threaded these tornadoes, the lightning flashing, and I'm holding on to this person's hand, and I'm telling you, get out in Jesus' name! Get out in Jesus' name! This person is shaking all over, and they're having a fit, an absolute fit. Hey, I successfully cast that demon out. The problem is it came back. It came back because it was tied to their self-defense mechanism. The demon appeared to me in a dream as a 50 or 60-year-old woman in the form of a little girl. And everyone else thought it was a little girl, and only I could see that it was a 50-year-old demon pretending to be a little girl with pigtails and eating a candy and being all sweet. Meanwhile, I could see its evil, disgusting, hate-filled face. And that thing was tied, that brat demon was tied to this person's self-defense. And I lost that one. And I do know that the person went on to be in a better place in life. Everyone I do ministry on, even though I feel like I didn't succeed in some cases because I didn't get that long-term, immediate protection, what I do is I get them most of the way there. And then either God sends somebody else along. That happened in one case with a woman that I helped who was she was about to murder her own child. I almost involved the police in that one. Instead, I dumped her off on somebody I knew could handle it, and she got in a better place. So all of the people that I've helped are way better off than they were before. You know, they might have started on drugs, and now they don't do drugs anymore, and it's because we went through this process. Now, they still are struggling in relationships. They still can't get control of some of their other issues, but they don't do drugs anymore, right? So it works if you work it. I'm still trying to perfect this method. I think the most important thing I can do is teach y'all how to recognize demon activity in your own life and perform self-deliverance. And I hope to get this method of delivering family and friends in your friend group and taking them through the process. I think I need to come at it from a position of self-deliverance. That's why I've shifted gears for this channel. And I'm not really talking about teaching you how to become exorcists as much as I'm teaching you how to guide people through the process of self-deliverance, because you can feed somebody a fish and they'll eat for a day, or you can teach them to fish and they'll eat for a lifetime. So when you teach people to get free, stay free, and set other people free, then you're freeing them forever, not just while they're around you, right? I hope you got something from this. I hope you're learning from this free college. And I do ask that you support this work financially. If you received anything from this emotionally, spiritually, or mentally, please leave a tip there in the PayPal. If God's calling you to tithe into this ministry, we certainly could use your support. I do not have enough tithe payers yet to be confident one week to the next. So I am relying on y'all to clothe and feed me and pay my electric bill. And so if you'll leave a comment, encouraging word, hit the PayPal description. That's PayPal link that's in the description. You can send me an email. We can talk that way. And you can also send me something to my P.O. box. Love gift cards, love Visa gift cards, Walmart gift cards, all that good stuff. So support the ministry. Help me out as I continue to bring you these truths. And I'm going to leave you with this powerful blessing. May the Lord surround you in his ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. May angels of sufficient rank, authority, and number be dispatched to your defense to drive the enemy from your midst. And then may the Holy Spirit envelop you in the peace of Christ, the peace that surpasses all understanding. We'll see you next time on the sheep pen. God bless.